Hey, everybody. Terrence and I want to thank you so much for all the Drinks with My Wife podcast downloads.
Thank you.
He can never give me my moments. Never. Anyway, we're glad you're enjoying it. Please be sure to share with your friends, family, and colleagues that you think will enjoy our madness as well. And don't forget to subscribe, because that gives you notifications of new episodes, which happen every week. Thanks again, and enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.
I don't know what happened there. I think we're recording now. Yes, we are.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yes. How's this sound in your headphones?
It's fine. It's a little loud, but it's fine.
That's all right. Hey, people, I hope it's, if it sounds like we're in a bunker, Juan and I have not been kidnapped. We're just recording in a different area of our place right now, so it sounds a little echoey. We do apologize. We're going to do our best to make sure it doesn't sound nuts.
We might sound nuts.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Our conversation might become nuts, but we'll try not to make the sound be too nuts. First of all, what are you drinking? We're drinking the same thing today, so I ask you because I always ask you.
I know, you're asking me even though you're the person who made the drink, so why don't you tell me what I'm drinking?
We are drinking a margarita on the rocks,
See.
But two key components to this margarita that makes it different than ones we've had in the past while we record.
What is?
First is the tequila, which is our favorite, Herradura.
Okay.
And secondly, instead of using Grand Marnier, we are using Cointreau.
Nice. Is that the proper pronunciation?
Cointreau?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not checking your shit. You know you do languages and stuff better than me. I just don't know if that's how I was actually saying.
Cointreau.
Cointreau.
And it's really very, very tasty, and I'm actually liking it
Nice.
lot. Yes. So that's what we're drinking. We hope that you guys have a drink. We have a really good. I think we have a good topic today.
You tell me. I don't know what it is. What we doing?
We're doing. What are we doing?
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Yeah, right. Sorry.
You can. So what are we doing now?
Yes. So I would love to know what's the best advice you've ever received.
The best advice I've ever received, personal or professional?
I don't think it matters either. I think it could be just the best advice you've ever received.
Best personal advice I've ever received actually came from my grandmother, whom recently I lost my grandmother, but this would have been the best advice even if she was still walking the planet. It is, you can't take it with you.
What's it?
It, yes. So when I got married the first time, and it worked out marvelously till the divorce. When I got married the first time, it was one of those things where it's like,
you figured out you could find somebody better. And then you did.
Nice. That's. Oh my goodness. Whenever I got married the first time, we got all the gifts. You get all these gifts and this and the other. And we had a friend who was an interior designer. She gave this amazing bowl. You do that thing the morning after where you're opening up shit and people are going, ooh, oh my God, look at those nice towels. But she had given this beautiful bowl. And I jokingly said that, I don't even know where we'll put this, because by the way, we hadn't even found our apartment in New York. We were just getting married and we were moving to New York. I was like, I don't even know where I put this. And I'm sitting next to my grandmother, as I always did, and she just said, what does it matter? I'm like, because it's nice. She said, well, yeah, you can't take it with you. And stay with me. She's like, seriously. She said, you spend all this time putting china on walls and things that you can't use. She's like, put that thing to use. So in an effort to make my grandmother laugh, in which it did make her laugh, I said, I'm going to start using this shit to have cereal. It was like this beautiful Tiffany bowl. And she laughed. She's like, it's better that than just sitting on a shelf or in some box.
She was right.
Yeah. And so for me, that can't take it with you becomes about not treating everything as special. So rather it be a crystal bowl that I receive as a wedding gift, or special clothes. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe in saving something to wear for special occasions and shit like that. So for me, that was the best thing, because it just became a life thing. Like, well, I don't want to waste all this time, or cigars or booze. Like if you come over to our house, there's no such thing as the good booze. Like if you're in a mood to have, you know, some Macallan 18, can knock it out. Don't mix it with Coca-Cola. You know, like don't get ghetto and shit. But if you just want to have that, like it can be at noon on a Saturday. Fucking rock it, man. That's for me.
You know what's interesting too about that piece of advice is I think that certainly sound advice, and I've heard it said before, even about just money, right? Like you can't take it with you. So if you see something that you really want, then you should get it for yourself.
100%.
If you have the means, of course, and it doesn't mean you're not going to have food on the table, then you might want to think about that.
Don't bounce that wrist check over those shoes.
Right. But you know what's interesting? One of the things that I remember, and it came to me now as you were saying that this was the piece of advice, when 9/11 happened, and I remember going to work a couple of days later, because we were allowed to stay at home. Even though I lived in California at the time, we were allowed to stay at home. And I remember going back to work, and I remember someone saying to me, or we were chatting, you know, of course, and just it was devastating. Of course, we had those conversations that I hope and know that many people had when that tragedy took place. But I remember a woman that I worked with, her saying, we've been using our good china ever since.
Oh, wow.
She said, we use our good china, we use our good Waterford wine glasses, even the kids use them, and they put their juice in there or their milk in there or something. And I remember her saying this very thing that you were just talking about, which was, why not? What am I saving it for? She said, I came to this realization of, like, hang on a second. Life is short, certainly. Things happen. Tomorrow's not promised. Yep. What am I waiting for?
100%.
And so she started using her good china and her good glasses, and not being so concerned too about, you know, she mentioned this, like just like her kids playing with something that maybe she felt like prior, like, don't
break it.
Don't touch that. Don't break that.
Don't break my tchotchke.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very, I think you have to be an in the moment type of person to have that type of attitude though as well, because I'm not sure everyone has the capacity for it, I guess. I
don't know that people do, but I think it's interesting if you can get people around you who that is their approach to things. And you know, we often describe ourselves, and we start off as a joke for us, but it's, even though it was a way of life, as being minimalist, because I guess my vulgar variation of what my grandmother's always said, it's what I've said to people all over the years, like, it's just shit. Like it doesn't really mean anything. Yeah. Like, so that's why getting rid of the couch can mean something, or not needing to update, you know, make sure we have the most recent version of ... whether it be a couch, television, this, and the other, because we go, in the end, it's just shit. So I'd rather spend my money on things that are bringing me value versus things that are bringing me only gonna be aesthetically pleasing for the people who are coming over. Like, long as this functions for us, that's all we need. So that goes to, like, you think about our dishes, they're the most basic white dishes. Now, they're quality dishes, but they're not fancy. Like, no one has ever eaten at our place. Think about that. We cook for people all the time. No one has ever once complimented our plates.
No, but they've complimented our food. They have. And that's more important.
That is. No one goes, man, these ribs are dog shit, but man, the plates are awesome.
Gorgeous plates.
It's just shit. And so you're right. I don't know that most people have the capacity. I just feel blessed that I had someone who was willing to impart that in me at a very young age.
And you took it to heart, and you recognized the value of that advice, because that's the other thing about advice. People give you advice all the time, whether you ask for it or not. but it was valuable advice for you, and you kept it and you held on to it, and you've lived your life based on it as
Right.
well, and you've seen value in that. I think there's plenty of people who, they have that kind of keep up with the Joneses type of mentality, and what they accumulate over the course of time in their life.
Ain't that the worst shit when people
means
want to
something.
show you their stuff? Like you haven't seen someone in a long time, you show up at their house or they meet up with you, and they're so anxious to show you what they have.
I don't really think I've had that experience. I don't think I go to those people's homes, quite frankly.
Well,
The people that I know, I'll say this, the people that I know, I don't feel like that has taken place. I could see where it would take place maybe with somebody cursory, like...
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Not like our tight circle. Yeah, my
for
closest
sure,
friends
for
aren't telling me
sure.
some
But I
new
could see
shit they've got.
visiting like a colleague or something if they've had a get together at their
Right,
home
right.
and they have this need to show. I've been around that type of person for sure.
Because there's nothing worse than someone like I'm just going to use a woman, for example, or no, I'll use a dude just because I'm dealing generalities. Like you're meeting up with some friend or you see them picking up, in LA, and you're like, oh man, that's a nice car. And next thing they tell you the history of how they got that fucking car. Like they want, like, I was driving that 2017 for like the longest, right? And then I was just thinking like, I went to see my friend. Like, I don't give a shit about the backstory of your things. Like it doesn't, I can think about one friendship, particularly for myself, that was damaged just because, my God, this was like, it feels like 30 years ago, but it was back when they first started doing those virtual tours, the turn of the century or whatever. I love using turn of the century, but started doing those virtual tours. So a friend of mine had bought a house, a guy who I'd known for a very long time, who once was a close friend, and he sends a link to his house through email. It went to my AOL email. That lets you know the shit's a long time ago. Wow. Exactly. So he sent this link.
Wait, did he create a website for his
Yeah,
house?
it was the virtual tour of the home that he had bought, and he was
so it was like on the realtor's site.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
it wasn't him like walking around with a
Because
VHS.
now we're at an extreme here.
Exactly.
It's like he's created an Instagram profile and a Facebook profile for this damn house.
But I never forget, he sent this link, and and it was on one of those back before you even did blind carbon copies. It went to everyone, and there were so many people who were chiming in, and me. Especially after midnight, after a drink, I'm getting grumpy, and I'm looking at this thing, and my response, where everyone else was like, "Ooh," and "Ah, man, nice. That's a big atrium." I was like, "Does this fucking place do tricks?" And so he responded. He was like, "Ha ha ha." I was like, "No, seriously, because I'm wondering why you're sharing me what your virtual house is going to look like. I really don't fucking care."
You're right.
It did not go over well. It did not go over well, but I felt like it was a moment of look what I got. And by the way, that was also not very long, more than just a few years after I'd heard that advice from my grandmother, which was, I was about to say, it's just shit, but that's not what her version was. Well, like, it can't take it with you. And so I'm just not impressed by people's things. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's one thing let me see how to put this. I think it's one thing if you're kind of quiet about it, meaning you've worked really hard and you've achieved something.
Okay.
And I'll just use this person as an example. And you bring people to your home, your new home, right, for a get together,
right?
Because you have a level of pride at what you've achieved. That's a little bit different. That feels a bit more subtle than what he did, which was sent a link to the virtual tour to say, "Look at what I got." And it's because I think it's appropriate. And totally, of course, okay to feel prideful in the things that you have, especially if you've worked really hard for it. It's another thing to be boastful and to be acting like I have things that are better than what you have. I'm not suggesting even that's what he was doing, but
for me, it's more about the look what I got type thing. Like I get being proud about what you have in your world for your personal usage. But whenever it becomes about, let me show you what I got.
Yeah, showcasing it and putting it on display.
Putting it on a link and sharing with a bunch of people.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and to think about it, like if it had been just our closest circle, especially people, a group of guys coming from humble means, which is a nice way of saying poor. Like if he had just said, "Yo, I bought this house, man. Yo, man, wait till you see this shit." Like when I think about my closest friend, that same group now, I go, we wouldn't do that, but we do take pride in each other's things and your achievements, and like you said, the results of those hard work. So for a friend to be having a home built now, we were just talking about it a week ago, like, man, I cannot wait to see the house. He was like, yeah, I'll let you know as the pictures start going up. Like, no, I want to see your shit because I'm very excited. I also want to know where my room's going to be, Tracy. So I cannot wait to see where I'm going to be able to stay because there's that pride. You know what I mean? But
I get to stay there too.
Yeah, he's got you a fold-out couch. Like, I just want to, no. I like taking pride in things. It just was weird when it felt like it was being, look what I got.
Yeah, of course.
You know
boastful.
what I mean?
It's that kind of arrogant, boastful. Yeah, I totally get that. Well, that was good advice that your grandmother gave you.
What was your best advice since you asked the question?
Yeah, so mine comes from my mother. So also good.
It's like a Mother's Day podcast.
Yeah, it really is. And it's nowhere near Mother's Day, but we should be celebrating mothers every day.
Every day, as we do.
My mother, I can remember when I was younger, her telling me, don't worry about what other people think.
Ooh.
Yep. Don't worry about what other people think.
Do you remember under what context she told you that?
You know, I don't specifically, to be honest with you, because I was very young. And my mother was always this way because, as I've talked about before, you know, they kind of felt like the way that they parent, the way that our home is, the way that we live our lives is how we're going to do it. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing it. So there was always this kind of sense of don't worry about what other people are thinking, right? And so I'm sure it was many, many times that she said it, but
right.
Yeah, so I don't remember a particular
But you do
instance.
remember her telling you that.
Absolutely. And this was always her thing. Don't worry about what other people think. And I always kept that with me, even at a really young age, I have to say. Even at
That's what I was going to ask. Like, did you take the advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Even at a young age where I think people are, where that's hard to do because you're trying to fit in and you're trying to, quite frankly, be like other people. I did. I took it to heart. It's part of the reason why I never joined a sorority.
Oh, nice.
Because
I like how you giggle, like, because so you can make fun of fraternities and sororities.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that at a later date, people.
That should be a different topic. But
I know you like making fun of my fraternity life, but go ahead.
But and what's interesting about that, I say that, you know, that's part of the reason why I never joined it. But I do remember when I first started college in Vermont, and I went once to whatever that party, Rush, whatever the hell that party's called, that get together. That's where you kind of come in. And I remember feeling like I was being judged. Right. And it was in that moment that I was kind of like, oh, fuck you. Right. Like, I don't even know you. Right. And I'm going to base my value on what you think of me and whether or not I should be a part of this club that you have. And so it served me well. It has served me well in life, but it also has sometimes been to a detriment as well, quite frankly, because there are situations where you should hold back on not caring about what other people think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, not giving a shit is beautiful until not giving a shit is detrimental.
Yeah.
In finding that balance, like it's that thing where everyone thinks they don't want to give a shit until not giving a shit might actually make you look like a fool or look reckless or look, uncaring.
And I wouldn't say it was any of those things in my instance because I care a lot about a lot of things.
Of course.
But I don't care about people's judgment of me. And that can sometimes come across in a way that I might not intend it to. Right. Maybe it's coming across as arrogance, which I have no intention of. That's not the case at all. Right. Or indifference. Sometimes that's the case. But And I think where it could potentially, or has in fact been a detriment for me, is in a professional environment.
Right.
Where literally, if someone is doing something or making a decision or behaving in a certain way or judging me in a certain way because of my reaction to that, I don't really give a shit. Like, this is
I see what you're saying.
Right? This is what I think. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I don't give a shit what you think about me because I've said it.
Right.
That has at times been detrimental.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
What about, like you mentioned, the college time? Was there ever? There's nothing worse than when you feel like you're not being your authentic self. So, can you think of a time where you weren't, where you let someone else's judgment or who you were, where you put too much value in someone else's opinion of yourself, of you rather?
Well, I'm sure that I did.
Right.
I don't know if I'd have to put a lot of thought into that for a specific instance.
Right.
But especially in college, you're at those ages where you're not very self-confident and you do want to fit in and you want to make friends and you want to be part of a group.
Were you went to school around wealthy people? Like, was that a thing where it was like, where you felt like, I gotta fake the funk? Like, I'm gonna.
No.
What about high school? Nothing.
No,
Nice.
I never felt that way. I never felt that way because I couldn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what was I really gonna do to
Right.
kind of fake that I wasn't in that same status as the people that I was surrounded by?
Well, people do that though, don't they? Don't they fake how much money they have, or they can keep up with the Joneses? Isn't that what that's all about?
I think they can for sure.
But you don't remember doing that.
I didn't do that.
Right.
I couldn't possibly fake it. I had no means to be faking
Right.
it. And you're right. I went to school with a lot of wealthy people, and they were coming to school and driving amazing automobiles. And
Did you have a car in college?
No.
So everything was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, they
No.
had cars and shit,
No, but they had cars my parents couldn't even afford.
Talk about they're pissed because it's old.
And I was driving up with a Chevy Nova and a handmade that my father made trailer in the back that literally had all my stuff in it, and it felt like, quite frankly, the Beverly Hillbillies were coming to Beverly Hills.
A trailer he had made.
He
That's
did.
fucking
He made
awesome.
it. He literally made it. He literally made it. So there was no faking.
Yeah.
There was no faking anything. And there was even times where, like, in college, groups of us would go out and one person would foot the bill because they got like a month, they got like a monthly fucking allowance. And I'm like, yeah, my parents sent me $20 last week, but that's got to go on my meal card. So I'm sorry. I'm really happy you're picking up the tab on this, because otherwise it was cafeteria food for me. But, so I never.
Yeah, you couldn't fake it with that.
I couldn't fake it. I didn't feel the need to fake it. I didn't want to fit in on that level. I wanted to fit in on the level of just like getting along with people. Like, that's how I wanted to fit in.
Oh, I see.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It's not anything financial or clothing.
no, it's more just personality based.
Right.
Like, I loved the group of friends that I had when I was in college, and that's what was important, was to be able to fit in from that perspective.
Right.
And it was a natural fit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it works so well with all of us, with the group that we were all friends with. But I didn't feel the need to fit in any other way.
Well, let me ask you this. This is, as we stay on that advice thing, what is the best advice you think, not that you've ever given, because that's going to be so relative to who you say it to. Mm-hmm. But if you had to give your best advice, what would it be? Would it be the same thing your mother said, or would it be something different?
No, it would be something different. Not because that's not valuable,
No,
but the advice that I have given that I really try and live by is the one that I would give, which is never ask what if. So I personally, and even for us, I don't want us to go through life asking, what if?
What if we had done that?
What if I had done that?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know.
Right.
I want to know, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep.
I want to know the answer to that question. I think that's why We've moved around
Yep.
the way that we have. I think that's why we do certain things the way we do them. I think there could be times where people look at us and go, "Oh my God, now what are they? What are they doing?"
Well, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I don't really know, but no one's ever said that to us. But I could see why they would. I would understand why they would. And so that is the advice that I have given, and the one that I just even try and live by.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, that makes sense.
What about you?
What advice? You know what? Just because it was the first thing to pop in my head, kindness is free.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to always
really
tell the kids.
one.
Kindness is free. I grew up rather angry. As my brother used to say, the small man syndrome. And so I was very reactionary to how people's behaviors were. And I always wanted to be like, I'm recognizing getting over my level of moodiness is going to be a lifelong journey. And if I live to be 150, I might actually stop being moody. But it's okay to be moody as long as you're kind.
Yeah.
And not impact the lives of others.
Right.
So simple thank yous and showing gratitude and also displaying minor acts of kindness is the most important thing, because while it may not seem life-changing in the moment, especially as someone who's worked in the service industry or retail service industry, you can really piss on someone's day with the most simple, dismissive attitude. And so I never want someone's interaction with me, especially if they don't really know me, to feel like, man, that asshole came in here and did this, or he reacted in that way.
Right.
So even things that tick me off, like let's say shitty service or you feel disrespected, finding a way to just treat it with kindness and just go, okay, because barking back at someone or casting attitude is not necessarily going to make their make their change in their life. It's just going to upset everyone. I will say that, what's interesting is I think about that. I remember my father was a waiter when my parents first got married, and my mother, for all her frugalness, if that's the right way to put it, she always tipped the minimum, no matter how bad the service was. And she used to say, "Hey, we lived on those tips when me and your dad first got married." She's like, "And you never know when someone's having just a bad day."
Yeah.
And she was like, "So just always treat it with kindness."
Yeah.
And that's just extended to not just in service, but just trying to interact with people.
Yeah.
Making sure that even if I'm in a shit mood, that I'm trying to react accordingly. Remember our neighbors when we lived in Harlem? The fucking band.
Oh, yeah.
We used to have this band that practiced above our patio, on their patio, and they were so fucking loud. And not only were they loud,
They were bad.
Fucking sucked.
They were just bad.
And they
were like a folk group, and they were a really bad.
An electric folk group.
Yeah,
they were
really bad.
fucking horrible.
God,
but remember,
so
there was a night where I just had to run upstairs because and I'm just banging on the door, and they open up the door, and there's like these 6 white guys who all look like accountants. And I'm yelling like a fucking crazy person. Somebody had pressed 911 and was just waiting to hit the last one. And I fucking going nuts. And they were like, "Sorry, man." I was like, "No, it's over my fucking patio. We're sitting down. I'm going nuts." They shut the door. And before they started again, I started knocking again. And then I had to stop and I go, "Look, man, I'm not an asshole. My name is Terrence." I started walking person to person. Only one of them lived there. And he was like, they were shaking my hand. I was like, "Look, man, you've been driving me nuts." I was like, this is where you've brought me. But it was one of those things that he was like, "Sorry, man, I didn't know it was that bad." I was like, "No, it's been weeks upon weeks every Saturday."
It was horrible.
That we had to hear that. But even in that moment of catching myself and going, dude, there is a way to interact in this moment. And even, like I said, even waiting at the elevator after he had shut the door, just going, don't be that asshole.
Yeah.
Like they were just upstairs. They didn't know they were too fucking loud. Why wouldn't, it was a small building. How they were not conscious of that is probably explained by their age. It just was like, dude, go back.
Yeah.
Go back. Don't be that dick.
Yeah.
Don't be that dude.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that would be the advice I like to give, is that kindness is free.
I would love to hear for our listeners, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Word.
What's what's the advice you would give someone today? And then, you know what would be kind of interesting to hear? What advice would you give your younger self?
What that sounds like a therapy session.
Yeah, but that could be, you have a choice. You have a choice of 1 to 3.
Stay away from that stripper from Miami.
You ruined my life, damn it.
Seriously, you could be scratching and itching for the rest of your life.
And I got the clap. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you so much, and we look forward to having conversation with you again soon. Take care.
Thanks for joining Drinks with my wife.
That's
Peace.
me.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining Drinks with My Wife. Please be sure to click the subscribe button and rate us on Apple Podcast and Spotify.